When did I make the decision to follow Jesus? I was raised as a Jehovah's Witness from the time I was 5 until I left the Jehovah's Witnesses at 16, 17. They push Bible training and really encourage it. And I truly, with all of my heart, wanted to follow Jesus then. I was reading Ephesians 1 and got to 1:13 where it said I was sealed by the Holy Spirit, with the Spirit of promise. And something made sense to me out of that I had never heard of before. The idea that I had a promise from God that I would have salvation, I would go to heaven. And it didn't match what I had been taught by the Jehovah's Witnesses about salvation. So I prayed and I said, I don't understand this, but I think you're saying this. And if it's true that you are saying that I can be sealed and have salvation and live with you forever, Jesus, that's what I want. And at 13, I had the spiritual epiphany. I had the spiritual epiphany that everyone talks about when you accept Christ. They brought in the elders of the church because I professed this to my mom, and it didn't match the doctrine that we were taught by the Jehovah's Witnesses. And she believed that I had heard from God. And so they came in and told me that I wasn't really saved because they don't believe that. And since the encounter that I had with God didn't match up with what they were trying to teach me, I became disillusioned about their faith and following them. And by the time I was 17, I had completely rejected all Christianity, because the Jehovah's Witnesses teach you to reject every other Christian denomination. I spent the next 15 years bouncing back and forth between being atheist, agnostic. I studied Buddhism, Hinduism. I practiced witchcraft. I started doing the RCIA to become a Catholic. That didn't work out. Ended up in a custody battle for Savannah. Marriage fell apart, and I was at church one day. I was at a little Baptist church, Deer Park Baptist Church in Newport News, and the custody battle was pretty ugly. But I had received a Bible and said, if this is going to be true, then it all has to agree with itself. And not necessarily the details in the story, but all of the ideas in the Bible have to line up. They can't contradict. There can't be a contradiction about theology. So I read the Bible from beginning to end and was super critical of every single point of doctrine and theology. And I couldn't find any disagreement in theology in the Bible. It took a great deal of time and research and understanding to iron out some of the points. And I had had years of reading and studying the Bible, just not with great understanding. I got to the point where I had read the Bible and there was not a contradiction. And at that point in time, I decided that I was going to live my life for Jesus, that I was going to give him everything that I had. I remember sitting in church, and I had already prayed the prayer where I made a deal with God that if he would do what was best for Savannah, I would do whatever he wanted to for the rest of my life. I gave up my life, basically. And I remember sitting in church, and the idea came to me that God had plans for Savannah that were just for Savannah. And he had plans for me that were just for me. And I remember feeling warm and welcome. And this was during the middle of service. And that was my prodigal moment. So the journey that took me from actually believing in Jesus and wanting to follow Jesus to the point in time where I actually chose to live my life in a way that honored Jesus took about 18 years.